Wow. So December 30th, day before 2025. And it feels like every time at December in particular, for me, it's always like a month of celebration. Well, I think for a lot of people it is. It's like a very festive month. And I like to indulge in that. I like to indulge in the feeling of it being festive and really taking a moment to appreciate all of it. So not necessarily just like counting down and thinking, okay, the new year is here. What do I want? But really looking back at this previous year and reflecting on all that has transpired, because that is part of the abundance. Part of the abundance is what have you already achieved? Who have you already been? What are all of the blessings and joys and moments of beauty from the year just past? I love doing those year-end reels where you compile a lot of clips from the year. And another aspect of that is that you would, in fact, film a lot of clips during the year, which when I like like over a decade ago, I remember I went on my first like trips and I never really took any photos. I was not in that habit. I got like my first iPhone in 2012. So it wasn't really I never really had a cell phone until I was like 20, 22, 23. Like I already graduated university when I got my first smartphone, cell phone. I never even had like one of those flip phones, in fact. Um, no, I did have a flip phone for like a few months, but then shortly after that, I got the smartphone because it was already out. This was already like 2011. I was already out of university when I got my first cell phone ever. And I was like, oh. So I barely ever took any like maybe I was snapped like one or two photos. Like I did not really have a lot of media on my phone. And it was only over the years that I moved from taking photos to taking video content and not just like necessarily video, although longer form video, obviously you can describe more things, you can go into more depth. But a lot of times I mean like 3 to 5 second clips. Like clips, it's kind of like a visual diary. So rather than writing something, a picture is worth 1,000 words, but a video, even a clip, well, there's sound, there's movement, sometimes there's some kind of action going on. And so I've gotten more in the habit of having taking more videos than I do just simply static photos. And maybe the next thing I actually want to do is take more longer form content. So say YouTube videos, because in videos like this, like as I'm doing now, I find I can express myself to a greater extent. Like obviously I can talk more in depth, and part of that is where the meaning is. It's beyond the visuals that you might not be able to capture the thoughts and you know the process behind it all and the story that you can articulate in longer form content. So, what I wanted to focus on in this video. Welcome to December 30th. It's December 30th, and welcome to the Travel Tuesday Masterclass. This is more just a place where I talk about oh, wow. So December 30th, like a day, not even, it's already night right now. So there's just over a day until 2026. But really, I just soaking up like all that has transpired in 2025, not even necessarily thinking too much about 2026 just yet. I tend to be more also let letting the story write itself. So in every moment, it's like I'm already at the point where I'm being in my future self energy, if that makes sense. So it's like I don't necessarily do a lot of planning ahead of time, which may change at some point. But as of now, a lot of my journey tends to unfold, as it were, without necessarily planning or trying to figure out what will be. Okay, so what is the focus for this video? I wanted to focus on how important it is to be who you feel called to be in every moment and allow that to pull you forward. It is December 30th right now, and it's just a day or so before a new year, a new calendar year at least. And December is always such a cozy, like full of festivities. It's the month that feels very, very abundant and full and rich, just by way of, wow, things are just not really flowing today in this video. Hmm. What is it that I'm trying to get out right now? What is it that wants to come through? I have like notes here because there's always moments where I'm like, I'm gonna like, a lot of times I just talk to myself in my head. Like there's just thoughts floating around in my head. And at the time, it's like I don't necessarily just press record or start filming or start journaling or writing. It's literally just like in my head. So this can be like I'm in the bathtub or I'm in the middle of like even reading a book or something, or I'm just literally like in bed. I'm like, it's like already nighttime. I'm trying to fall asleep, but I'm not falling asleep because there's always thoughts in my head. So it's always these times where I don't necessarily capture it. And then I'm like, oh, yes, next time I go to film my video or I go to post online or something, this is what I'm going to talk about. But that's the thing. It's like in the moment, capturing it, because when I actually am like, okay, I'm ready to film now, I'm ready to sit down and like do a post or I don't know, whatever it is that I'm going to do to share something. It's almost like these ideas are not necessarily there at the forefront of my, it's like these ideas are, my mind is always so overactive at the time that I'm not like, that's okay. I just realized it's this. When I'm like in this spacious mode, like I'm in this like, oh, okay, things are clear right now. I'm not busy doing anything else. I'm have a bit of free time or like this space where I'm going to now post something. I'm going to film something. I'm going to share something. But then it's in the spaciousness that like the thoughts are not really not really there at this time. Whereas it's in the moments where I'm not necessarily like free. I'm in the middle of doing something, whether I'm like out and about, or I'm just driving somewhere, or I'm in the bathtub or shower, or I'm about to fall, like I'm meant to be sleeping, like it's already like middle of the night, or I'm just like anything else that I'm like doing that a lot of times these thoughts, when you're not thinking about it, just come to the forefront. And then it's in the moment where I'm like, okay, I'm also filming at a different time than I usually do. I'm filming in the evening right now because I had a few things I had to like errands and such during the daytime that I want to get done today. So I did not do my set time of 1 p.m. that I had been doing for the weekly YouTube. And yeah, so it's almost that idea that it's like, I think also sometimes it's just when I start talking, then I just get going because talking comes quite easily to me. Like if I can speak off the cuff, and a lot of times I just get into like, I just go on a roll and the ideas come as I start speaking. So that's another technique. It's literally just start talking about anything, and then one thing leads to another. And then at some point you say the thing that wants to come out. So a lot of this is almost just like having this 1 hour space or so where I just record and like sit here and just talk. So at least it's kind of like I have it captured, because at the time that I'm, like I mentioned, doing anything else that, I'm not actually meant, like particularly intending to create content or to capture it or film it or something, that's when like a lot of times I'm having these monologues in my head or all these ideas. I'm like, oh, that's the topic I want to talk about. Oh, these are the ideas that are coming to my mind right now. Oh, this is my perspective on this that really I want to share. It's like in all those moments that I'm not actually capturing it somehow, whether it's like, I don't know what I need to do, like a voice memo or something. And it's the other idea that it's like it doesn't have to be perfectly polished because it's not like I want to go and redo it, right? It's like if an idea, if the thing comes, if the monologue is like if my mind is just going off and it's like all these tangents at once, I want to have like record it there and then, however it is, polished or unpolished, not planned, not scripted, nothing. Simply just capturing that moment and what's coming through because that's where it is. So it's not even about like, oh, trying to take notes so that I then implement it at a later time. It's like, no, as it's like there, it's like there needs to be some kind of a format where either I just grab my phone and start doing a voice note and letting it just be like almost like that stream of consciousness kind of flow. Or simply, I mean, that would probably be the best, like journaling or writing. See, these are the things like having that technique where you just know what you're going to do at the time that those thoughts start coming, or if I'm like at the bath or the shower, it's like how exactly do you capture your thoughts in that moment, or um, do anything with it. I mean, quite frankly, a lot of times when I'm in the bath, I actually bring my phone with me. So a lot of times I probably could record a voice note. And this is just where like literally your day to day, like your life integrates with work, integrates with play, integrates with like, I don't want to call it work. It's just that idea of like, it's like being an artist of life. You find inspiration anywhere and everywhere. And also your mind tends to, at least my mind tends to be like very, very overactive. So there's always at least the times that it feels like that's the part. It's like when you're not thinking, when you're like in a state of relaxation. So that's where it's when I'm in the bathtub. It's when I'm in bed, like about like ready to fall asleep. It's when I'm, maybe reading a book, a fiction book, particularly. So it's like more just like for fun or leisure. And a lot of times it's in those moments where all these ideas just naturally bubble up to the forefront. So that is actually a piece of that's the thing. It's like that's also part of the if you're ever trying to like get over like a blank page or whatever, it's like it's when you're most relaxed or when you're not trying at all, when you're just like your mind is elsewhere, your mind is not actively trying to do something, that a lot of times what is within is already coming to the forefront, like what you actually want. And this actually relates a lot to Travel Tuesday, which is really what Tuesday masterclasses are all about. It's the Travel Tuesday because a lot of my journey was that led me to the travels. It started from the heart. It started from within. It started from me, not necessarily trying to think or make something happen or think from a very logical place or being like, oh, I've got to figure out. I felt like a lot of that I had been, say, doing when I was in university, like trying to figure out what to do with my life, trying to figure out which faculty I belonged in, what major I should really do. Am I even in the right school? Should I maybe go to a different place? Should I study a different program? Like taking all the career quizzes and whatnot. Like there was an element of like really trying to figure it out versus subsequently when I entered, like I went to psychotherapy, I went to Vipassana, I was seeking stillness within and more of that silence and a voice within that it felt like I was not really very attuned to anymore because I was so focused on like the external world. And I was like, all my actions were very engaged in like, going to a job or just like the day-to-days of life that I felt like I wasn't necessarily listening or just even living in a way that was very aligned with my true, like an inner voice speaking. And this is essentially like oh my goodness, I was just thinking from yesterday until today when I started recording this, there were so many ideas that I don't even know where they went now. I actually do not even know where they went because they were so like numerous and so varied. Like they covered different topics and different things. And was like, oh yes, that would work. That's something I definitely want to do. That's another thing I want to talk about. That's another thing that would be perfect for the masterclass. I didn't take any notes. I didn't record anything. I didn't like give myself a voice memo or a note or whatever. I didn't like, and now suddenly it's gone. Like it's literally just, I do not even recall what exactly it was, nor is my like, am I even on the same wavelength? It's like after I did like some errands during the daytime and went out and about, I don't know about you, but sometimes just like being out and about in the external world, it's like a totally different energy. It's like you just operate from a different frame of mind that the energy that I was in, say, yesterday and even this morning prior to going out, it was like this space of just like this, like these ideas were just bubbling forth without necessarily needing to, without me like searching for it. It was just coming through. And that is the thing. It's like trying to figure out like some kind of a system or process to actually just capture that more effectively. So this type of thing does not happen. Because I'm like, oh my goodness, that was such like those are like things I really, really wanted to talk about. And they felt also more like new, like they were not things that I necessarily have shared in previous master classes that I've done for a few weeks now. They were not necessarily things that I've necessarily posted about, say, even to my Instagram. So the topics were quite more like diverse and touched upon things that were different than what I tend to talk about in these master classes. So, okay, wow, I don't know what it is. The words are, let me see my notes here. So a lot of times I try to put some like I have some like notepads and like sticky notes that I'll just put things down on, but I didn't do that yesterday. I didn't do that yesterday. I didn't do that today. And I just got like a whole bunch of new downloads in that interval of time. So I'm just like, oh gosh, what was it even? But I don't even know. Anywho, so I have some notes that I took down from like at least a few days ago now, like since closer to the last week's masterclass that I was like, oh, these are some things that are coming to mind right now that I'll do for the next week. But lo and behold, a lot of things happen in the week. And a lot of times, like on the day of, I end up talking about something else. And I mean, that's the thing. Also, although there were things that came through yesterday and today, although I didn't record it in the moment, I didn't jot it down, it's not to say that I would actually talk about that on this particular masterclass because I am not actually, what's the word? But I'm also doing the masterclass at a bit of a different time than I usually do, just because I pushed it back due to the errands I was doing in the daytime. So I don't know if that affected it. So the thing is, like, I'm like obsessed. What I'm really obsessed with is like the process and the mechanisms by which, the things like how you capture ideas, how these ideas come, what is like the meaning behind, like, say, when you stick to a certain time to do something versus you go with the flow and you allow that to be flexible. So you're like, okay, I might need to change it up. And that's okay too. So it's like all these different elements that this is truly where the obsession lies, where it's about not just the thing I'm talking about, but it's like behind that as well. It's like how do you form the habits and the habits and the actions and you know the things that you do, how do you choose those things so that they are like, what do you call it, like in flow? Because I talk a lot about flow here, so that you are not just doing things from like your mind. Like I always love to feel like I'm connected to something beyond myself. So when I feel called to do something, it's like I'm not necessarily doing it of my own accord. It's like I feel like I'm doing it from a higher calling. And I'm very much into like path of least resistance and Wu Wei and the Taoist teachings of like, do nothing, accomplish everything, and like and don't try to force things, like let go, let God kind of thing, and that process of surrender. So a lot of times for me, it's like if something for some reason I'm like, oh, okay, it makes it just easier to just do it. Like allowing things to just move very naturally. So like say, okay, well, you know what? I had errands to do this afternoon. And so I'm doing this master class more in the evening now. And letting that be like a surrender. It's not like I'm like, okay, I'm gonna work my errands around my master class, but being like, you know what? I'm going with the flow. I'm going with the energy that's shifting because although I had been keeping up the same time for at least like the first 3 weeks or so since I've been doing these weekly master classes, there's also there's the shifting, like the shape shifting, because every moment and every even like week by week, it like everything kind of shifts and changes to something new. And I like to be able to absorb that, if that makes sense. Like I like being able to integrate that and be like, yeah, I'm not going to be so regimented that I'm going to have to do this at the exact same time every day. I might still keep the overall like goal or like desire to do a weekly 1 hour masterclass travel Tuesday, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to do it the exact same way every single time. So it's like that built-in flexibility. So this is now that I'm thinking about it, this master class is really just being more like a behind the scenes on the thought process behind how I do certain things and how certain things unfold. And even just like the thing, like the behind the actual actions, because even like as I press record on this and I like started a few times and then I was like, what actually am I wanting to say on this class? So what am I actually like saying? And I like the process of just documenting it, if that makes sense, like just capturing the what actually occurs. So it's like in real time, like what actually transpires during this masterclass. Okay, but so as I'm even doing this, I'm very much attuning to like what is it that is wanting to be said right now? Like what is it within me that is actually wanting to come through? So I'm just looking at some of the notes that I wrote from near to last week. And I was saying like kinesthetic learning. I'm a very kinesthetic learner. So I'm not the kind of person that wants to just like read about something or hear about something. I'm very much very active. I like to do something and like have that bodily, visceral, like immersive quality. And this is actually, with this was the pull that I felt over a decade ago to being the world traveler, because at the time, a lot of my kinesthetic, like my body often knows the way before my mind does. So my body will start like almost wanting to move or like behave in ways before necessarily my mind has caught up. What this means is like, for example, before I really got on board like world traveler or whatever, my like I was really craving like going on bicycle rides and being out in nature more, like meaning like visiting more like different parks, like not always just going to the same places, but like seeking more variety of places. I was also wearing more like not like lightweight clothing, but like okay, I'm in a hoodie right now, right? But in that time, I was like wearing like t-shirts, even in like the middle of winter. Okay, so this was almost like a stamina thing. Like I felt like I liked feeling strong and like that stamina, that fitness of like even if it's cold outside, I don't feel like I have that internal heat and that internal like fitness that wearing a t-shirt, it feels like at the time I remember like I didn't want to wear heavy like sweaters and bulky like hoodies and such and like being warm and cozy. I like the feeling of wearing t-shirts like in winter. So that is like an example of just like the body leading before the mind does. And this is like me before I became like a world traveler and started going all to all the different countries. It was like my body almost preparing itself and leaning into that role of like that power and that strength and that energy and that stamina and even that like newfound fitness within me. So it's that kinesthetic learning and movement and the actions. And I would say like the universe supports you when you are in the flow, when you are doing the thing that you are called to do, that's when the universe really meets you and supports you. So when I was just allowing myself to be as I felt called, and the things that for whatever reason, without judging it or trying to curtail it or make it be a certain way, it's like I was just allowing myself to, go on these like hour long, 3 hour long bike rides. Also, wearing the clothes that I was drawn to at that time, mostly just t-shirts and like very like what you would call it, like, when you're not so focused on like, yeah, what you would see like what your focus really is when you're doing those activities, because I was more about being in nature and going on bike rides and just wearing very like lightweight clothes that allowed me to feel more powerful from within, like very simple t-shirts, yet I felt very, very rich and abundant simply because of all the things I was exposing myself to and being experienced in, and allowing myself to have that diversity and novelty and everything. That was really like creating that sense of richness in my life. And yeah, I always say this was like my hippie phase, because it was like I was very much into like, package free things and not generating too much waste, and, being very intentional as a consumer to buy products that didn't have too much excess ingredients or were like, you know, like just things were more locally made, locally sourced, like have a lot more heart and like soul in them, and often then are more carefully made. So that's what I call like my hippie phase. And, so at the time, this is what I was drawn to. And this is where it's like you simply trust, because you don't try to, if I was like, oh, it's cold outside, you shouldn't do that. Or I was thinking like, if I was almost like allowing my mind to lead, probably I would not have allowed myself to just lean more into that kinesthetic pull, allowing my body to just lead the way, right? Because I would have been like, oh no, I don't want to go out. I'd rather just stay inside and be cozy, right? I don't want to go on a bicycle ride as much as I did. I wouldn't want to, you know, be wearing like clothing that logically it was like, well, aren't you cold? Aren't you going to get sick if you just wear that or whatever? But it's like, no, that like this is where you lean into what your body already knows and what it's already pulled to. And this is where, sometimes you hear people talking about like their path is the path, because everyone has their unique path. That is another thing. Yes, of course, people will want to share like their path is what happened for them that led them from this to this and this and that. But it's not even about what they did in particular. It's the process behind it. It's the energy behind it, which is really what this masterclass seems to be about. It's kind of like, it's definitely, the words are just not flowing, but it's kind of going beyond just the words on the front and actually being like, what is the actual thinking underneath and like underlying it? And yeah, I was actually thinking the other day how sometimes I find it quite like, what's the word for it? There's so many people who, I mean, myself included, it's like, of course, everyone takes their own journey and path in life. And when you are on your specific path and journey, it feels like, yes, this is the way. I want to teach you how to do this too, right? Because this is what works for me. This is my path of ease. This is my path of joy. This is like my highest timeline kind of thing at any given point. And so it feels like you want to be like, this is what I learned, and this is what I did, and this is my exact method and steps. But it's not even necessarily about the specific thing. It's like one layer deeper. It's like one layer behind that. What actually, it's like the principles behind it, right? Because there can be innumerable different like things per se, but you want to look at the common denominators. And a lot of times the common denominators are like the mindset patterns, the energetic decision making, the choices that allow you to lead from a place of truth rather than conditional happenstance and whatnot. So when I say, like, oh, university never felt right for me, that is clearly not the case for everyone, right? There are, in fact, some people who their path is going to university. For mine, it was not. So, of course, for me, I'm going to be like, this is the way. It's like, I do not go to university. Of course, I'm not saying like you do not go to university. I'm saying you listen, you trust your inner compass. So, this is like the common denominator. And the thing is, like, everyone has their own version of what it means to trust their own inner compass. Trusting your own inner compass could be, I trusted my inner compass to go and study this and this, to go to this program, to get this particular job, to talk to this person, to not do this thing, to enroll in this, to try this, whatnot. For me, it was definitely allowing my body to lead, like the kinesthetic aspect. And that when I got out of my head and the controlling part that wants to like figure it out and be like this and this and this way, and simply allowed my body and my soul to lead, like take essentially just getting into your heart, your soul, like the creative side of you, the flowing side, the one that's not just like neck up kind of thing, and you're using more of yourself, you're more holistic, whole, more of your whole self, isn't it? This is really where you get out of your mind. Pardon me. Oh my gosh. Anyway, I'm not even that tired. It's just, I don't know. I think I'm just so relaxed right now that that's the thing. It's like I think I'm subconsciously my body's wanting to get into a bit of a relaxed state so the words can flow more easily. I always find sometimes that if I've been out and about during the day, like running errands or doing whatnot, I find my energy is a bit more agitated, especially, if there was like some thing like upsetting situations that happen or things that like you just, there's so much different energies out and about that I'm very, very susceptible to like that taking on other people's energies and like not necessarily like ridding myself of it for like a while until I need to go take a bath or I need to like just like release it from my system. So a lot of times it's like when the words feel a bit more constricted or they're not just free flowing as otherwise would occur naturally, it's oftentimes because there's like this body is not in a state of that ease and that relaxation and that feeling of like, yeah, that's really what it is. That's why I think setting the earlier recording time for me means that I can be in that flow period where the words just kind of are there more easily, like the ideas are just naturally at the forefront and they're coming through with much more ease. Yeah, so this is just almost like an example of what happens when one's energy feels, at least my energy, when it feels like contaminated by others, like outside or just like, oh, like, yeah, I was like, ooh. Anyway, this is the thing. It's like getting your mind space, protecting your energy and your mind space, and also knowing how to use the particular times to allocate so that you are in that flow period when it's best to like capture something or record something or share something. And then other periods when you need to maybe do more extroverted activities or things that might shake up or agitate your energy somewhat or get you out of that flow state in a manner. And then you prioritize and you schedule things out accordingly so that your energy is not, I guess, as of now, recording this in the evening, which now I'm realizing probably not the best time to record, especially if I had a day of errands or had to do some various interactions that was not necessarily keeping me in flow. And this is where it's definitely showing up, like when I'm going to record, and like a lot of times that free flow energy or being able to just speak off the cuff and be in that attuned with what wants to come through is like it's taking me a bit of time, like a while to get there. So this is definitely very, very behind the scenes. It's kind of like showing like the process and like what actually happens and like the thinking behind it and how you'd actually allocate your time and your energy and your patterns to like the different activities that you need to that you want to do and get done and whatnot, and how to do so in the most in the way that actually suits you the best and then actually carries you along. Like you're not having to effort or try too hard or make it happen. It's like this feeling of ease, because a lot of times if I just start recording and then talking, it's like I don't have to necessarily plan anything in advance because the words are already there. Like they already know, it already knows what wants to be said and what wants to come through. Whereas right now it's feeling a little bit more jammed up or constrained, or just like, what's the word for it? Like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's feeling a little bit more like a not so cohesive. It's a little bit more ajar or whatnot. And I think that's definitely from, yeah, not being in like that deep state of relaxation, or even just like my mind still focused on like outside tasks and errands that are have just, yeah, just state like having that clear transition from one activity to another. My goodness. Anyway, I mean, beyond if anyone actually watching this, I would use like find this very, very useful for like just like what in fact, sometimes just like that meta experience of seeing yourself from outside of yourself. So it's like seeing your thought process or even like what actually transpires, like literally, like no joke, just like put a camera on and like record yourself for like an hour, just like an hour, okay, just like an hour at a time. Film whatever goes on, whatever you're talking, no filter, no editing, no nothing, whatever, and just see like what actually happens, like what comes through, because that actually shows you so much and teaches you so much about, well, first of all, where you are right now and your process, but also where any of those leaks, like leakages or like gaps are that is not quite, in alignment. And you're like, oh, it's like, I don't know, like if you're thinking holistically, it's like you just automatically kind of, you can sense it. You can just be like, oh, it's like that mindset, right? It's like you can already tell within yourself that from looking at yourself, it's like, when you observe other people, you just kind of like can size them up in a way. And then, or you can size up a situation. Like if you have like, most people have enough insight that they can kind of see like where something is not quite adding up. A lot of times, if you just record yourself and then you watch yourself, you can almost just see like within yourself, oh, like that was not quite smooth. This is what actually, like, it's like a great self-development project, which is really what this masterclass recording is turning into today. But that's all part of the flow. That's all part of letting the story write itself. Today is what it is. Today, the fact that I pushed it to later in the evening to do the recording, but I still knew that I wanted to do the masterclass. I still want to do the weekly masterclass. Just didn't really know how that one was going to turn out. And also, as we all know, I don't necessarily plan in advance. So I don't necessarily have like a bullet point of like what I want to do per se or what I'm going to talk about. Yes, I can refer to like some notes that I take at points in time. But there's also points in time, like even just before this, that I'm like, okay, there was a whole bunch of stuff that actually came through that was not recorded or I had not taken notes on. So now it's just escaped my mind for the time being. Anywho, was I saying there's something I really wanted to say just now. Yeah, it's this idea of containers. Containers are almost like how you define what you want. So when I set like this 1 hour recording weekly, it's like this defined space where I'm like within this weekly, hourly call session mastermind, I simply press record. I allow myself to speak as I feel called, and whatever maybe, maybe. It is not polished, it is not perfect, it is very, very just raw and unfiltered, and just like it's almost just like this sandbox where you just like allow, the stream of consciousness to come through, or even just like whatever presents itself in that period of time is like a contained space, okay? Because you've now contained it. That's the thing. This is the distinction. It is a structured piece of, it's an hour long. I'm going to upload it. I'm going to, it's an hour long video or whatever it is. And, or at least an hour long of recording. And whoever you're being, whatever you're being in that time, it just is like, that's just what it is. There's something about that I think is just so elegant and so like beautiful in a way, like just so like, I don't know, what do you call it? Like there's no controlling about it. Like I'm so big on surrender and just like that allowing and just like letting things unfold, that this is the kind of thing that I just love. It's like I don't like things feeling very, very, very like polished, very scripted, very like organized, very like done, done, done. I know exactly what is going on from point to point, because in that way it kind of loses a certain point of the essence that could otherwise just come through naturally. I feel like actually, if I were to rewatch this at some point in time, I feel like I would have so much insight into like that would actually leap me to like a new way of being, because just by way of recording yourself and then watching yourself back and having that like that containment essentially that allows you to witness yourself and like see yourself from like outside of yourself, like that meta character state, like you're a character outside of your character. It's like it kind of allows you to become like the director, right? Because you're no longer just like within yourself, you're almost seeing yourself from outside. So you can almost like direct yourself more in the future and be like, this is what needs to be done. It's like even just that cognitive awareness and understanding will shift the way that I show up from here on out. Interesting. That's so interesting. I love that meta concept, the idea of meta and like not just being like from your own lens, but from the like, what is that, a third, like the point of view, like first person point of view, second person point of view, it's like it's not the first person point of view, because when you're in like if you're just looking from yourself within yourself, it's like that first person point of view. And then if you were like obviously if you're in like dialogue with the second person, that person looking at you is like the second person point of view, you. But then if you were like the observer of like say you from afar, so not necessarily like having a dialogue or interacting, but it's like you're just like whatever, looking at yourself from outside of yourself, like a fly on the wall, like a I don't know, how are you imagining, like you're visualizing this right now, like you're hovering somewhere, or like you're just seeing yourself from outside of yourself as if you're like playing a video game or something. It's like the third person point of view, is that what it's called? The narrator, I don't know. But it's like you then become almost like this, I don't know, it's very spiritual, is it not? Because it's suddenly it's like you see yourself as something beyond yourself. It's like your consciousness is not the first person point of view. It's actually beyond that. It's actually something elevated from that. It's the third person part of you. It's the meta. It's the meta state, right? It's like the awareness of your own awareness. Yeah. So, and that's actually something interesting. That is something interesting because that's always something that I've actually wanted to do. That's actually also the way I've seen life for a very, very long time. So this is not just like a new thought at all, but it's interesting that I'm actually doing the recording now. Interesting that I have this container piece now where I'm actually recording the piece and even just gonna upload it. Like I actually don't even feel like I feel like over the years, like I've just lost all sense of, not lost, but my sense of self-consciousness is just like it's just not even there. Like there's just very little self-consciousness that like for me to even upload this, like it doesn't matter that much to me. Like like I don't feel like I need to put anything super polished out. Like I wouldn't feel like, oh no, I can't do that. That's so messy. That's so like, what's even going on in this video? Because also for me, it's just like this self-study. It's like a self-study. And another thing actually that really anchored in for me this year, 2025, I've gotten so much better with what's the word for it now? I was trying to think. It's a duality, but it's more so like with people not liking me. Okay, I've gotten so much better with criticism, hate, literally. When I say this type of thing, I'm talking about like real life situations where people leaving me bad reviews, people like finding arguments with me, people like getting into fights with me, people like picking faults with me or just almost like trying to make something happen essentially. I This is not anything new to me per se. Like this is not something like un not a new new this is not like a new thing that I've not ever dealt with. Like I've dealt with this like since I don't know, I guess yeah, like throughout my 20s, 30s. And I mean, as a kid, I think you're more inoculated, so you're not necessarily like the front facing whatnot. But I have gotten so much better with just like not really not caring, but like actually being like, okay, so this person thinks this about me, or this is how they're trying to make it. Like even like some of this gaslighting, when I say that, like, I feel like everyone, there's like something, so for some people it might be romantic relationships, it might be like um particular specific type of abuse that they experience, or it could be um like there's just so many different things that people have their own stories, right? Where it's like, okay, this is like the number one pain point in their life. I would say my number one pain point is gaslighting. Okay. Gaslighting seems to be such a common theme in my life. It's like this common thread for whatever reason, where I often find my perspectives are often invalidated. Like, and this idea that people are almost like making a point to pick a fight with me and then play the victim, if that makes sense, and then trying to shame me in some way or make me wrong or the villain, something of that nature. Like I have so many like specific stories on this, but just like on a overall like broad basis of what that is. So when I say like this year, I've just gotten like, and I'm also 38 this year, which for me, I feel like maybe age is also part of it. Just this idea that's like when people try to almost like bully me or shame me, or like what's the word for it? Like there's a lot of people who I find are very like untruthful in their thinking. Like they're not looking at things very cleanly or very truthfully, and they're trying to manipulate in a way to suit their own, who knows, whatever icky feelings they have within. I mean, I obviously could be more specific with this, but a lot of times it's like, yeah, this is just like a this is like a can of worms. This is something I could go into so much depth on, but what I just want to point out is that I have just become so much more like anchored in myself, being like, you know what? So what? It's like, a lot of times maybe I would be more distraught by it, or I would try like, um, or I might even internalize it. And I feel like that's like one thing that I've definitely shed this year. A major shedding point is like that, not needing to internalize what other people would like me to feel, if that makes sense. Because a lot of times I found with the gaslighting, people often want to, it's like this controlling thing. It's like trying to control your own perception of reality and how you view life and things. And it's like dismissing your own viewpoints. Like that's literally gaslighting, this invalidation. That's like all sorts of abuse and whatever the terms might be for it. But though that's like such a common thread, like that's like I would say one of like probably a main pain point for me that I tend to, I would say, experience more than normal, more than most people. I don't know, maybe not, but for me, it just feels like yeah, this year. And I just find like, yeah, I just kind of like let that go. It's like, you know what? No, I am not the problem. You have the problem, and I'm not gonna debate that, try to second guess myself, or even consider that maybe I need to look at it a different way, because I'm like, no, I'm done with that. So that is actually one thing I'm actually very, very proud of. And not even just proud of it, but it's like almost like this thing. It's like, geez, I should have done it sooner, because I'm like now 38, and really didn't really take me until I'm 38 to even feel this inkling that like, yeah, I don't really care. It's not that I don't care. It's more like, uh, I see this for what it is now. And I'm no longer going to be shaken because of it. I'm no longer going to allow this to kind of take any kind of like any of my peace or time or energy, if that makes sense. It's like, no, it's just like a hard boundary, like no line in the sand drawn. It's like hard and like a boundary. It's like a boundary has been set, essentially. And I think that's not necessarily something that's come easy for me, because I tend to be very like very flowy, go with the flow, and like taking into consideration like all different perspectives, and like a little bit more of a like the easygoing persona, right? So a lot of times these type of things, like I also tend to be like a very active thinker. So I'm like a lot of times I am in fact second guessing, especially if someone's presenting like this gaslighting situation. If you're not familiar with that word, look it up. But you might even know what it is already. And this year I'm like, it's like more of that just inner authority. It's just like that sovereignty is just becoming more stable within myself, and just being like, yeah, no, I actually can't just know. It's like it goes along with like almost that like be like that's how this person wants to think, but that does not make it true. If that makes sense. Like that does not have to affect my perspective or how I think about things. So I get to have my own perceptions. I get to have my perceptions irregardless of what this person thinks. Because, instead of trying to like compromise or trying to argue or trying to be like, but this and this and that, it's like, no, that's like, I know what I think. And um, you do not really get a say in that. You do not get a say in telling me how I should or should not think, which is a very common pain point of like gaslighting, where, someone trying to control how you perceive things, like your thoughts, your idea of how things are. It's like the gaslighting is like, does not affect me anymore. It's just like, you know what? No, I know what I think. I know oh, what I feel, and I am not debate. That's not up for debate. That's not up for me explaining myself, if that makes sense. So, wow, this masterclass just went off in all sorts of different tangents, but I feel like at peace with it. I feel like the hour is pretty much up now, and whatever came through, came through. It is what it is. And I just want to kind of, say that anything that you have lived and been through, or just like felt drawn to, or just had a life experience in, is absolutely perfect. It is exactly what you needed to experience to be where you are now, to be who you are now, and to go into, wrap up 2025, leading into 2026 with all that you are and all that you have experienced, and that your path is unique to you. It is so specially unique to you. Your path is not anyone else's. And that's actually where the magic is. So it's like, it's not about what anyone else's path is. Yes, there's common denominators that I suggest the principles give you wisdom, like trusting your own inner compass, whatnot. And yeah, principles that I have not necessarily gone into much per se, but it is not that anyone's path is better or the one way. Your specific path that got you here, whoever you are now, and anything that you've experienced, think of it as like your mana, your particular resources as a character. This is what you get to play with. This is what you get to go into the new year with. This is who you have become up until now in the wrapping up of the 2025 year. And that is really what I want to emphasize on this masterclass. Your path is perfect as it is, and it is your special kind of magic. So trust your path and what you are called to in every moment, because the path is the way, and the way leads to the next thing. And it does not have to be fully planned out. It just requires you to trust and to allow it to unfold without, before your mind can even catch up, just allow yourself to surrender to that. So I will see you tomorrow for Wednesday Whole Wealth Masterclass.